relentless ticking beneath the cracked clock on your wall odd. You haven't owned a clock in years. At midnight, a breathy whisper slips out. Tell me your hour and place, like this, and subscribe. You move through the dark like a sound, each footfall swallowed by the apartment's thin walls. The ticking is precise, a small hammer against air, and with every beat the room cools a fraction. Your breath fogs, as if someone exhaled onto the glass. The clock is wrong. A spiderweb fracture runs like a scar through its face, glass bowing inward where no mechanism should be. You reach for the jagged rim, and the seam under your fingertips feels improbably alive, slick with a temperature that draws heat from your skin. A faint smell rides the ticks now, metallic and old, like coins left in a pocket at the bottom of a river. The decision tightens in your throat. You step closer, compelled, and the apartment's single lamp gutters, so the clock sits in a ring of dim light up. Close, the sound changes the ticking thuds in your teeth, a rhythm you can count against your pulse. There is a shadow beyond the fractured glass, a suggestion of movement like a curtain stirred by breath. But when you lift your fingers, the whispering hushes, each hiss folding into the ticking's cadence. You press the pad of your thumb against a hairline crack, and time seems to hold its breath. The air pulses cold, a slow in-and-out that slides along your wrist. Then something inside the cavity brushes the underside of your hand, quick, wet, and unbearably cold. The contact is a strike of ice, and a cut of surprise. You jerk back so fast your phone arcs from the edge of the table and thuds against wood, the screen sparking into a spiderweb of light. The sudden clatter snaps the apartment into a raw, echoing silence. And more damning, your thumb carries a pale smear that want warm. The shock rearranges small certainties. Your heartbeat runs a frantic counterpoint to the ticking. Each tick feels like a finger counting down at the base of your skull. The smear on your skin is not blood. It's a fine frost that beads and holds, clinging like a promise. You lift it to your nose and smell nothing but the cold. Even your breath, visible and ragged now, seems to edge toward the crack as if pulled. The shadow beyond the face of the clock folds inward, where light should be tiny points of reflected lamp glow scatter like watchful eyes. When you press closer, voice returns, barely audible, but not a word, more like someone shaping the sound of your own inhalation into language. It seems to learn you. The cadence modulates, matching the rhythm of your pulse, stepping faster when you panic. Your skin prickles with a new rule. What touched you drew heat away, and that temperature did not return. You do not sleep that night. The apartment keeps its small, clinical chill, and every other sound is translated into the ticking's geometry. Refrigerator sighs, radiator clicks, the neighbor's distant keys. The fractured clock remains on the wall, immovable and insistently wrong, and the smear on your thumb will not fade even when you rub it raw. That residue is proof now. You cannot pretend this was a trick of half sleep. You find yourself cataloging the way the cold comes in pulses, how the glass seems to hold a breath in and let it out slow as a tide. By the time dawn lifts, you have made a decision that rearranges your next hours. You will watch it at midnight again. You will learn whether the thing inside counts seconds or something else, and you will not pry it off tonight. The apartment feels smaller for the vow, colder at the core, and a quiet, desperate calculation settles into your chest, because whatever brushed your hand knows where you are, and something about that knowledge shortens the time before it tries again. You wake again to a pressure behind the ribs, as if someone has pressed a palm into your chest to slow the blood. The voices beneath the crack arrive at odd hours between the end of a dream and the full clarity of waking, soft as a breath across the nape. They press into the hollow silence of your apartment, pushing against the space between your heartbeats until the world narrows to the thin, metallic tick and the low, wet cold that crawls along your collarbone. Light from the street lamp leaks through the blinds and stutters across the wall. Each pulse of yellow seems to skew the shadows into wrong angles, long elbows and leaning heads that tilt toward the clock. You catch yourself counting the beats. The whispers drop into your ear, a childish tally you cannot stop. 1, 2, 2 whispers come closer, 2 degrees colder. Something changes each time they edge nearer. A loose screw you meant to tighten goes missing from the kitchen drawer. A photograph on the mantel tilts, the way someone might peer over it. Those losses are small, and then not small, and they do not return. The pressure grows more particular. Now the hush under the glass finds your throat, mapping the cadence of your breathing and learning to fall exactly between inhales so that you do not notice it until it is in your mouth. The light in the hallway splinters into a thin, trembling band that paints the crack in the clock like an open mouth. Shapes in the periphery begin to lean as if to listen. The air near the wall drops by degrees. The skin on your forearms pricking with a chill that tastes metallic. Then the glass rattles sharp, wrong, like someone striking a cup with a fingernail. And it happens so suddenly, your body jars, and your phone slips from your fingers, skidding across the coffee table to clatter loudly and go dark. The sound elbows the room into a new register. The whispers stop, as if cut on the same breath that silenced your screen. For a long beat, you are only the vibration of your own pulse in your ears. And when you look up, the clock's hands have hunched forward, the minute jumping ahead, as if someone there had shoved time into a different place. Tell me the hour you would hide from it. The voice seems to suggest, in the way the room leans. Whisper it in the comments. Leave a like. Follow if the cold makes your skin remember how to listen. Your devices are not the only things that die. Something has taken a sliver of the night. The loss of that sliver becomes proof. You find that, after the glass rattles, seconds peel off the edges of your day, little pockets of erased time you cannot account for. A cup emptied without you drinking, a cigarette length shorter in your hand, a voicemail paused mid-breath. The chill settles like residue beneath your clothes, colder than before, threading down to the sternum where it tastes of iron and old rain. When you stand too long facing the wall, the shadows stop matching each other. A silhouette will lag, then snap forward, like a second that forgot how to arrive. Your sleep-phrased nights are sutured with fragments of that breathy chorus, and the whispers start naming mundane things: the stove, the spare key, until the name is said and the object is gone. The apartment accrues absences, drawers close on their own. Light bulbs burn out in a soft, deliberate sequence. You begin to test it because madness is almost a plan. Stare at the cracked glass until your eyes water and the warped reflection of your own face blurs. Then step away to see if the room has changed. Each test ends the same. The clock counts not only minutes, but permission. Whatever lives in that split of time wants something you have, and you realize you will have to reach back into the hollow to take it back. Your fingers tremble thinking of wood and nails, and the cold breath that will greet you when you pry. You pry the clock from the hook because you cannot stand the way the ticking feels contained against the plaster any longer. It comes off heavier than it looks, wood damp under your palm, the cracked glass grating like old teeth against the rim. When you lift it away, the wall exhales. Cool air whooshes out, sharp and sudden, tasting of iron and wet stone, and the room's heat slides off you in a thin, dissolving sheet. Light falters where the clock used to be. The bulb overhead seems to dim, as if someone has pinched the filament. There is a hollow behind the clock, not a simple cavity, but a poured dark, its edges soft as felt and slick to the touch. Your fingers find nothing but a small rim of frame and an inner mouth that smells of cold breath and the faint, metallic tang of time kept too long. You cannot hang the clock back with the same casual motion the hook won't catch. That simple failure alters everything. The clock now sits loose in your hands, and the gap gapes like a wound, exposing something that will not let itself be easily replaced. Peering inside, your eyes adjust to a scale that betrays logic. There is a tiny room within the heart of the clock, a warped imitation of your own apartment arranged in miniature. A remnant sofa, a stained patch of carpet, a window that frames a painted slice of midnight. Light inside that little space glows unevenly, twinkling like a flask of embers. It throws miniature shadows that lean toward the crack with hungry intent. Sound changes too. The clock's tick becomes a thick, slow metronome there, as if minutes were being chewed and spat out. A chorus of thin voices rises from that little world, not words at first, but an undercurrent of pleading that stitches into syllables you almost recognize. The scaled furnishings bite at your fingertip like brittle wood. When you press the heel of your hand against the rim, the air sucks in and out, drafting cold, as if the tiny room breathes in counterpoint to your own chest. You realize, in a way that rejects denial, that the miniature does not merely mirror you, it copies time, a second later, you see the tiny hands on the miniature clock shift back an inch, and something eager answers with a soft, compelled hunger. You curl your fingers, aiming to scoop whatever is inside and to feel, finally, why the whispers are hungry. The reach is all muscle and question, skin against varnish, and the tiny carpet gives under your touch. An odd, velvety give that feels like velvet and frost at once. Your finger finds a scaled table leg, finds a windowsill that fits between two joints of your knuckles. Then, bright and sudden as a snapped switch, a cold hand clamps the base of your wrist from inside the crack. It is rigid, precise. Each finger is a cold filament pressing bone and pulse flat. The impact snaps a single, brittle sound, and a numbness floods upward, the cold burning with a blind, electric ache. Pain blossoms, sharp as ice, across tendons you did not know could sing like that. The clock tilts, slipping from your loosened grip, and the face clicks against your chest. As it falls, the big hands spin backward, jerking the room's time against you. You shove and pull, but the grip is not casual. It tightens with measured cruelty, and the rim of the crack contracts, as if the miniature room is pinching closed. In the second your wrist is held, something else is taken. You blink, and the wall clock's minute hand has lopped off a quarter turn. A slice of time gone without your consent. The miniature voices rise into a single, urgent chorus, forming a phrase that tastes like warning and claim. You wrench your arm, your skin numbs, and leaves a smear of cold on the edge of the wooden frame. When you finally free yourself, the clock slaps back against the plaster and the crack narrows, but you have lost a piece of now, a tangible, counted minute, and the knowledge settles like frost. Whatever lives in there eats seconds to stay warm. You check your phone. The lock screen shows a minute missing, the numbers stuttering in blue. Heat has bled from the room. The hook will not take the clock back, and the crack closes its jaw, patient, waiting. You pull your wrist free, the cold rings down your forearm, blue and stubborn. A bruise where those fingers closed like clamps. The whisper croons again, low, patient. Don't let the time slip. And the words fold into the hollow where breath should be. The whisper arranges itself around the cold, a thin film of ice that lingers like a promise. The apartment smells of old paper and ozone midnights, chill pools in the socket behind the clock, a temperature that seems to beat with the ticking, colder on the exhale, warmer when you hold still. You notice the skin where it gripped is paler, a thin frost lining the cuticle. It's a small, real injury now, a mark that proves whatever touched you was not only near, but owned a slow, precise cold. That ownership shifts the stakes. You are not merely observed. Time has taken interest. The hands on the cracked face sit hammered at 12, mute and accusing. And when you breathe, the sound is too loud in that sealed room, as if the walls are listening to the cadence of your ribs. You find yourself holding your inhalations, matching the whisper's rhythm, because each expelled breath seems to thin the air like sand, slipping through glass. A photo on the mantel loses color by degrees as you watch edges of the daughter's smile wash towards gray, proof that seconds are being sluiced out of your life into the clock's belly. You lift the phone to call someone, and the number evaporates from your thought. A blank urgency where a name should be, and the emptiness hums like a spent battery. That loss cannot be reversed. The photograph does not return when you inhale. The whisper tightens around the syllables. Don't let the time slip you. Try, absurdly, to move the hands with your fingertip. The metal is cold as river stone and resists, refusing to turn. When your skin brushes the cracked glass, you feel the interior room inside the clock shudder. A miniature gust answering the contact. And for an instant, the tiny warped apartment within flickers to show a version of your kitchen with the kettle boiling, unheard. The cavity exhales through the fissure. A breath you can taste, metal and old pennies, carrying a memory you can no longer place. That taste is a tax. The room takes something every time it draws a breath. You realize that letting seconds slide will hollow you. Not just minutes, but slivers of memory, a face, a song. The rule clarifies. Freeze the hands, and it stays patient. Move them, and it eats. You try to hold the breath, pinning the air in your chest, and find your fingertips fizz with the pressure. As if clocks are tapping under your skin, the effort encourages the room to breathe harder now. For a moment, you consider smashing glass, ending the geometry of its hunger. But instead, your fist finds only echo, the clock sucking the warmth from your knuckles until they tingle with numbness. Then, like a sound from beneath a buried floorboard, the whisper explodes into the shape of a voice and lunges. Sharp, close. A thing expelled through the crack that breathes directly against your ear. It screams not with volume, but with a sudden, harsh intake of air. And the sound of it is a slap of ice. The clock's hands lurch forward. The apartment's digital clock on your phone jerks ahead by a full minute. A snippet of your day stolen in an instant. Your name slips like a wet coin from the pocket of thought. There is a gap where recognition used to be. Cold floods your chest, and the breath cadence you've been tracking stutters. Slower now, as if some borrower has counted your inhalations and taken one. The crack compresses, the glass tightening around its own rim until it seems to suck the reflected light inward. And in that constriction, you see your own face in miniature, eyes hollowing, as if the clock is copying you in order to erase you. It keeps counting you. You cannot pry back what was pulled. You can only measure what remains. Midnight remains fixed, but the ledger has shifted. You are lighter by a minute and by a memory, and the whisper's final words are not a warning, but an instruction, a patience that promises to be precise. If that chilled you, whisper the hour and the room below, and subscribe to listen when the crack breathes again.